The strange gift. Daniel Heil had seen many strange worlds in his years as a trader, but this place felt different. The air was warm and heavy, carrying the scent of burning spice and something sweet he couldn't name. The alien market stretched out before him like a living sea, stalls made of crystal, silk and glowing vines. Everywhere, tall alien shapes moved in slow rhythm, their skin colors shifting as they spoke in voices like music. Daniel came here for one thing: to deliver a crate of rare earth-grown cocoa beans. It was supposed to be a simple job: land, trade, leave. But the moment he stepped onto the market's main path, he felt eyes on him. Not the curious glances humans often got on alien worlds, but something sharper. It was like the whole crowd had paused mid-breath. Then he saw her. An old alien woman stood at the end of the street, leaning on a silver staff. Her skin was a deep shade of green, lined with age. Her eyes, large and gold, locked on him. She didn't blink, didn't speak, just stared, and yet, Daniel felt as if she was already inside his mind. She began walking toward him. The crowd moved aside without a word, giving her a clear path. Whispers followed her, low and fearful. Daniel didn't know her, but he could feel power in her presence. The kind that didn't come from muscles or weapons. When she reached him, she raised one long, thin hand. In it, she held a small crystal, no bigger than a walnut. It glowed softly, its light pulsing like a heartbeat. She pressed it into his palm before he could react. The warmth of it spread instantly through his skin, up his arm. It was alive. He was sure of it. "Keep it safe," she said, her voice low but carrying weight. "It will choose its moment." Her words were not a request. They were a command. Daniel opened his mouth to ask what it was, but she had already turned. The crowd parted again as she walked away. No one stopped her. No one dared. He looked down at the crystal. It was faintly humming now, like it knew it had a new owner, and for some reason, Daniel felt that if he dropped it, something terrible would happen. The rest of the market seemed to wake up from a frozen moment. Stalls came alive again, merchants shouting, colors flashing, smells drifting through the air. But the people kept glancing at him from the corners of their eyes, some with curiosity, others with fear. He didn't know why, but he knew he shouldn't linger. Daniel hurried back through the narrow streets toward the landing pad, the markets. Noise faded as he reached the metal steps leading up to his small ship. The Sparrow once inside, he locked the hatch and leaned against the wall. His hand tightened around the crystal. It felt heavier now, as if it carried more than just weight. Sitting in the pilot's chair, he turned it over in his palm. The glow shifted slightly, moving in patterns like waves. When he held it closer to his ear, he thought he heard whispers, but they were faint, impossible to understand. Daniel shook his head. He had no time for alien riddles. He had deliveries to make and a schedule to keep. Still, as he placed the crystal in a storage box near the console, he couldn't help but glance at it again. Its light pulsed once, slow, steady, almost like it was breathing. As the Sparrow lifted off, the city below shrank into a patchwork of shining roofs and winding roads. The sky shifted from orange to black as they broke through the atmosphere. Stars filled the view, cold and endless. But even out here, far from the market, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Halfway through the jump to the next sector, his comm screen flickered. An encrypted message appeared. No sender ID, no traceable signal. Just 4 words. "The Granddaughter will find you before they do." Daniel stared at the words, his brow furrowing. Before who? Find him. Why? And who was the Granddaughter? He looked toward the storage box. The crystal was glowing brighter now, for a moment. The hum inside the ship seemed to match its rhythm. Then the light faded back to its gentle pulse. As if nothing had happened, Daniel sat in silence for a long moment. He didn't believe in destiny. He believed in deals, in cargo runs, in getting paid. But now, something was in his ship and his life that he didn't ask for. And somehow deep down, he knew that whatever this gift was, it would not let him go Outside, the stars drifted by. Inside, the crystal kept its steady heartbeat, waiting for its moment. The journey back. Daniel set the Sparrow on autopilot. The hum of the ship's engines was steady, but the crystal's glow was not. It flickered every few minutes, almost like it was reacting. He tried not to look at it, but it was hard to ignore something that seemed alive. He had been to dangerous places before, smuggled goods past pirate patrols, even survived a fire in the cargo bay once. But this felt different. This was quiet danger, the kind you couldn't see until it was too late. Hours passed. The black ocean of space stretched around him. Daniel tried to distract himself with navigation checks, but every so often, he thought, he saw shapes in the distance, small glimmers that didn't belong to any star. He told himself it was nothing, but his gut said otherwise. When he stopped at a refuel station on the edge of human territory, things got stranger. The place was quiet, too quiet. Only a few docked ships, all with tinted windows and locked airlocks. Inside the station's lounge, the air smelled faintly of metal and cold tea. Daniel paid for fuel and sat near the big window. From here, he could watch his ship, make sure no one got too close. That's when he noticed him, a tall figure in a dark cloak, standing perfectly still at the far end of the room. The hood covered the face, but Daniel could feel the stare. The figure didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. And for some reason, Daniel's skin crawled. When he left, the figure was gone. But as soon as Daniel stepped back onto the Sparrow, his comms lit up. An encrypted signal forced its way onto the main screen. No name, no source, just a voice. Deep, calm, and strangely cold. The Granddaughter will find you before they do. Daniel froze. It was the same message as before, but this time it was spoken. Before he could respond, the screen went black. No trace of the signal remained. He checked the crystal, still glowing, still warm, but now when he held it, he felt a pull, not a physical tug, but something inside him, a direction, a path. It was pointing somewhere out in the dark, beyond the edge of the map. Daniel sat back. He wasn't the kind of man to follow strange alien magic into uncharted space. But the truth was, he was already being pulled in. Curiosity was winning, and maybe fear too. He engaged the hyperdrive as the stars stretched into white lines. He thought he saw something moving between them, shadows slipping through the light, watching him, waiting. And Daniel realized the journey back to human space was not going to be simple. Not anymore, asterisk. The first chase, the jump through hyperspace, ended with a violent shudder. Alarms rang through the Sparrow's cockpit, red lights flashing against Daniel's face. He gripped the controls, forcing the ship to steady. Something was wrong. He hadn't come out where he planned. Instead of empty space, he was surrounded by black. Not the normal soft black of space, but a dense, heavy dark, a shadow field. Artificial. Someone had set it up to trap ships. And then he saw them. 3 vessels emerged from the darkness. Sleek, sharp, no markings. They moved like predators, fast, silent, certain. Daniel's stomach tightened. They weren't here by accident. He tried to push the Sparrow's engines, but the crystal in the storage box began to glow violently. The hum grew louder, so loud it vibrated the deck under his boots. The ship's systems flickered, lights dimming, then brightening. It was as if the crystal was feeding the ship, or taking control of it. The enemy ships closed in. They didn't fire, not yet. They wanted him alive. Daniel knew that was worse. "All right," he muttered, hands flying over the controls. He rerouted power to the thrusters, but before he could make the jump, a voice cut through the cockpit speakers. Not a call, not a translation, just raw sound. "Give us the key, and we will let you live." Daniel's blood ran cold. No one had called it the key before, and how did they know he had it? He didn't answer. Instead, he swung the Sparrow into a sudden spin, diving toward the shadow field's edge. The pursuing ships followed instantly. They moved like they knew his every move before he made it. The crystal's light shifted again. Now pulsing at a rapid beat, suddenly the Sparrow's engines roared, pushing far beyond safe limits. The acceleration slammed Daniel against the seat. Metal groaned, panels shook, and then they broke free. The darkness peeled away, replaced by the endless starfield. The black ships didn't give up. They were still on his tail, but now the Sparrow moved like it was alive, twisting and darting in ways Daniel didn't think possible. He glanced at the storage box. The crystal's glow was steady again, almost calm, like it had just done something it was meant to do. But one thought kept hammering in Daniel's mind as he punched in new coordinates. If the crystal could do that, what else could it do? Asterisk, the Granddaughter appears. The black ships were still behind him, even with the crystal boosting the Sparrow. They matched his every move. Daniel's hands ached from gripping the controls, his eyes burning from staring at the sensor screen. He needed a way out. Now then, out of the corner of the viewport, something flashed. A small shuttle, badly damaged, drifting in the emptiness. Its hull was scorched, parts of it still smoking. No lights, no beacon, no movement. It looked like a ghost ship. Daniel's first thought was to ignore it, but then his comms crackled. A weak, fading voice. "Help! They're coming!" The signal was nearly dead. The black ships were seconds away from weapons range. Every instinct told him to run, but another part of him, the part that still listened to that strange pull from the crystal, told him to stop. He cut speed, angling toward the drifting shuttle. As he closed the gap, his sensors picked up a single life sign. Female, humanoid, barely holding on. The docking was rough, too fast, too dangerous, but there was no time. Daniel slammed open the airlock. Inside the shuttle, smoke stung his eyes, the air thick with the smell of burnt wiring. She was sitting against the wall, tall, lean, skin with a faint blue tint, her eyes glowing like polished sapphire, even half-conscious. She looked straight at him, not with fear, but with recognition. Her voice was hoarse, but steady. "You have my grandmother's key." Daniel froze. "Your grandmother?" She nodded. Weakly. "Ishara, the elder. She gave it to you because it chose you." Her gaze was sharp despite the pain. "They will not stop until you're dead, or the key is theirs." The ship shook. The black vessels had arrived. Daniel grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the Sparrow. She didn't resist, but even as she stumbled beside him, she kept speaking, her words rapid, urgent. "The key isn't just a crystal. It's the last lock to a ship that can change the balance of power in the galaxy. And you human, you're the only one it will listen to." Before Daniel could ask more, a blast rocked the docking ring. The black ships had opened fire. They dived into the Sparrow, sealing the hatch just as another shot ripped past. Daniel slammed the throttle, engines screaming. The Granddaughter, Lyra, didn't look at the stars rushing by. She looked at the crystal glowing between them, and her voice was almost a whisper. "It has already started." Asterisk, the truth of the keystone. Daniel didn't stop running the engines until the Sparrow was deep inside a nebula. Clouds of red and gold gas wrapped around them, hiding them from sensors. The black ships would have to search blind here. It bought them time, but not much. Lyra sat across from him in the cockpit, her eyes still fixed on the crystal. Its glow was softer now, almost like it was resting after what it had done. Daniel broke the silence. "All right, talk. What is this thing, and why does everyone want it?" She looked at him for a long moment before answering. "That," she said, pointing to the crystal, "is the keystone. It can open the way to the Eternum." Daniel frowned. "The what?" "A ship," Lyra said quietly, "but not like any ship you've seen. It's older than every known civilization in the galaxy. Built by the first makers, the ones who shaped the stars themselves." Daniel gave a dry laugh. "Sounds like a bedtime story." Her gaze didn't waver. "It's real. My grandmother guarded the key for over 200 years. She was waiting for someone worthy to carry it." He shifted in his seat. "Why not? Give it to you, your family." Lyra's voice grew sharper. Because it wouldn't listen to me. The key chooses, always. Daniel leaned back, still skeptical. All right. And it just happened to choose a human traitor from the middle of nowhere. Lyra's expression softened. Yes, humans are different. The oldest races, mine included, have forgotten something. We've become predictable, careful, afraid of risk. But humans, you're reckless. You fight even when the odds are hopeless. You make choices the rest of us wouldn't dare. Daniel raised an eyebrow. That's what makes me worthy. She nodded. That's what makes you dangerous. To them. And that's why they will chase you until you're dead or the key is theirs. Daniel glanced at the crystal again. Its glow seemed to pulse just a little faster, as if it agreed with her words. The nebula's swirling clouds pressed close outside the window. Somewhere beyond, the black ships were still searching, and Daniel realized he was no longer just a traitor on a simple run. He was now holding something that could change the fate of the galaxy. And for the first time, he wasn't sure if he wanted it. Betrayal and capture. The nebula's clouds thinned as the Sparrow glided toward a small asteroid field. Lyra had given Daniel coordinates to a hidden base, a place her allies could offer protection. For the first time in hours, the tension in the cockpit eased. The base revealed itself slowly, tucked into the side of a massive asteroid. Its outer walls were patched with mismatched metal, but small lights glowed along the docking ring. It didn't look like much, but in this part of space, that was a good thing inside. The air was warmer, and the smell of machine oil hung heavy. A handful of figures waited at the dock, aliens of different shapes and colors, all armed. One stepped forward, tall and broad with 4 long arms. Lyra, he said with a deep rumble. You made it. Lyra smiled faintly. Rava, this is Daniel. He's the one. Rava's dark eyes scanned Daniel from head to toe. No welcome, no handshake, just a slow nod. This way, he said, leading them deeper into the base. They entered a narrow hall lined with humming generators. Daniel kept his hand near the blaster on his belt. Something about the place felt off, too quiet for a safe haven, too many doors closed. They reached a central room with a long table. Lyra began speaking quickly in her language, explaining what had happened. Daniel caught only pieces, words like Ishara, Key, and Eternum, while they talked. Daniel noticed one of the armed guards slipping out of the room. Another tapped a small device on his wrist. Glancing at the ceiling, a slow, cold feeling crept up Daniel's spine. He leaned closer to Lyra. Something's wrong, he whispered. Before she could answer, the lights flickered, then turned blood red. A deep alarm echoed through the walls. Rava's voice cut through the noise, low and cold. I'm sorry, Lyra. We can't protect him. They're offering more than we can refuse. Daniel reached for his blaster. The guards moved faster, weapons drawn. In seconds, he and Lyra were surrounded, hands forced behind their backs, through the open docking gate. Daniel saw them, the black ships sliding into position outside, their hulls gleaming in the asteroid's pale light. The enemy had found them, not by chance, but because someone here had told them exactly where to look. As they were marched toward the docking bay, Lyra's voice was steady but cold. This isn't over, she said, her eyes locking on Rava. You've just chosen the wrong side of history. The guards pushed them onto a shuttle bound for the largest of the black vessels. The hatch sealed with a heavy thud, and for the first time since Ishara had given him the crystal, Daniel felt truly trapped. The choice the shuttle's doors opened. With a hiss, cold, sterile air spilled in as armed guards pulled Daniel and Lyra out. They were led through wide, metal halls, walls lined with strange black panels that seemed to pulse faintly. Every sound was swallowed by the silence of the flagship. At the far end of the corridor, a door slid open. Inside stood the one in silver armor, tall, imposing, his face hidden behind a smooth, reflective mask. The voice that came from it was deep and calm, the key human. Give it to me, and you will live. Daniel kept his jaw tight. You mean you'll kill me slower? The masked figure tilted his head slightly. "You don't understand what you hold. That ship, the Eternum, was not meant for your kind. Give me the key, and the galaxy will have order again." Lyra stepped forward, her voice sharp. "You mean your order, your rule?" The figure ignored her, one gloved hand extended toward Daniel, for the last time. Daniel felt the weight of the crystal in his pocket. It was warm, almost burning. He could feel something inside it waking, and for a moment, he wasn't sure if it was the crystal's thoughts or his own telling him what to do. "No," Daniel said. The crystal's light burst through the fabric of his jacket, flooding the room with a brilliant white glow. The floor shook, not from weapons fire, but from the flagship itself failing. Sparks rained from the ceiling, consoles exploded, alarms screamed, guards stumbled. Blinded by the light, Lyra grabbed Daniel's arm, pulling him toward the exit. The crystal was leading him now, projecting a stream of coordinates directly into his mind. A path through the ship, to the docking bay, to freedom. They ran behind them. The armored figure shouted orders, his voice breaking with fury. But the flagship's power systems were collapsing. The key was tearing through it like a living storm. Minutes later, the Sparrow shot free of the docking clamps, engines blazing. As the black flagship shrank behind them, Daniel entered the coordinates. From the crystal, moments later, the stars bent, and a shape emerged from the dark, the Eternum. It was massive, unlike anything built in this age, a dark, living structure that seemed to breathe, its surface shifting like the skin of some ancient creature. As they approached, the crystal's light streamed out in a single beam, touching the ship's hull. A deep voice filled Daniel's mind. "Not alien, not mechanical, but human," Captain identified. Daniel froze. "Wait, me?" The voice was calm, certain. "You will decide who commands me. Choose wisely." Daniel looked at Lyra, at the galaxy's most dangerous ship now waiting for his word. For the first time since all this began, he understood what Ashara had meant. The gift wasn't for him to keep. It was for him to decide who was worthy.